tiesiog pradžiai lietuviškai, po to jau.
Hello, everyone. If we may take our seats, I think the event is just about ready to be started.
Good evening, everyone, and hello, everyone who joined us online on EMMIE YouTube channel. Welcome to Impact Talk 2025, live from Vilnius and streaming the impact-driven minds around the globe.
It's the event where failure takes center stage.
And the theme is
How to fail a startup globally.
We're diving headfirst into the missteps, the faceplants and magnificent mishaps that often come before the success. This is a space where failure isn't shameful. It's shared, studied, and even celebrated.
Because the world of impact entrepreneurship, failing isn't the end of the road. It is just slightly awkward, usually entertaining.
Yep. And today you'll have me, Emilia Motskuta, and my wonderful co-host,
Pius will be your host for the evening, and I think it's time to get it started.
Yeah. Impact Talk is an annual forum powered by Erasmus Mundus Master Impact Entrepreneurship, or EMMIE. It's more than master's program. It's a community of bold thinkers, doers, and committed building sustainability, inclusive and meaningful change throughout entrepreneurship.
EMMIE-preneurs come from all over the world. They develop ventures that align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and they build with purpose, they lead with empathy, and just like today, they're not afraid to be real about what went wrong.
And today talks are divided into 3 powerful sessions, each following a journey of a startup. So we'll start with an early stage, when ideas are fresh, dreams are big, and mistakes are often hilarious. Then we'll move to developing stage, where reality checks in, pivots happen, and purpose sometimes get lost. And then we'll wrap it up with growing and beyond stage, when success brings new challenges like burnout, distraction, or losing touch of misception. With the most awaited guest speaker, Justinas Pušys, founder of NGL Startup Investing and advisor, who will give ultimate talk about how not to fail a startup.
Across these stages, you'll hear from EMMIE-preneurs and guest speakers who are generous enough to share not just what worked, but just exactly what didn't.
No worries, in between each stage talk, there will be a frequent break where the time you'll have to connect, reflect, ask questions, or even laugh from yourselves a bit.
Because if you've never failed, you probably haven't tried anything just hard enough. So, to set the tone, let's begin with a few words from the supervising committee, one of the most influential people in ISM, who gives 1,000% of his support to the event to happen.
Please welcome the Program Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Professor Dr. Eigardas Žemaitis.
Okay, thank you very much for a really nice introduction. So I would like to congratulate EMMIE students for the first experiment. Maybe after a year you can tell, oh, that was failure, or maybe not. So that's a very good starting point. So after the year you can tell the story about this event for the future students, and they will improve and do better, and at the end of the day maybe we will have amazing event, because I really love the organizing committee who were sitting here on the tables and trying to, you know, work hard and discuss things. I really enjoyed just watching you. How well you planned everything, because I'm terrible planner. If you will give this event for me, it will be total failure, like literally on everything, because I cannot do so well. So I wish you to share your stories, specifically share the stories where you feel that, okay, that's a terrible story, because for me, I really love failure. when the people talk about not only success stories, but on everything what was not good. Because we still always think, oh, startup world is about unicorns, shiny life, you know, a lot of influencing stuff. But sometimes it's burnout, sometimes it's depression, sometimes it's just, I don't know what I'm doing here. So, and when I asked Effie how it's going, you said, oh, it's like this. So actually, I would like to hear your, you know, waving, surfing journey, how you surf across the waves, and maybe you will surf far away. So I'm really happy for you guys. Really appreciate that you done this. You are brave, and I would like to hear your stories. So let's kick out the beautiful storytelling event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Egardas, for the warm welcome and all the priceless words.
And it's time to get the show on the road.
And please let me introduce you to the very first theme, misunderstanding the market. Our first stage explores what happens when great intentions meet tough realities, misreading the marketing, underestimating behavior, or just giving a few too many steps, and also more deeply the reason who founders build as such startups.
Let's hear from those who lived it and are brave enough to share what went how.
$1 million business. First up is Elizabeth Okulov, a Kenyan impact entrepreneur and co-owner of Aqua Mandra, a mission-driven agriculture company transforming how Africa farms fish.
With a background in microbiology and nearly a decade in sustainable food innovation, she bridges science, community, and business to empower smallholder farmers and build climate-smart food systems.
Her work champions sustainability, dignity, and resilience at every level of the food chain, with deep roots of working in smaller fish farms. Elizabeth challenged the myth, the bigger always means better.
Today, Elizabeth will share a story, a brave story, about how purpose is more important than financial success and how it all went. So without further ado, let's welcome Elizabeth to share her story.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. How many of you want to succeed in their business and you have this $1 billion idea that you are always thinking about? Okay, my name is Elizabeth Okulo and my talk today is $1 billion business idea, so what? Everyone wants $1 billion idea, the kind of idea that puts you on the cover of Forbes, that earns you LinkedIn applause and Twitter threads, that draws venture capital like bees to honey. They say, find it, build it, scale it. Like it is a universal truth, like impact has a price tag, like meaning can be measured in zeros. Have been told, Elizabeth, you might just be on to run. And I've smiled, I've nodded. But deep down, I always wondered, $1 billion business idea, so what? Years ago, I stood barefoot in a red Kenyan soil next to a woman named Mama Achieng. No lights, no stage, no spotlight, just the hum of life and the quiet weight of hope. She wasn't raising seed round. She wasn't optimizing a funnel. She wanted to farm fish. So her daughters could eat, so they could go to school, and she wouldn't have to choose between protein and pencils. She wasn't chasing unicorn status, she was chasing dignity. And I realized her dream wasn't small. The world just didn't know about her. That moment changed me. It cracked something open because I saw with my own eyes the biggest ideas don't always come in $1 billion packaging. My journey didn't start with Aqua Mandra. It started with La Famia Greens, a hydroponic farming venture that I launched in my early 20s. Everyone told me that hydroponics, vertical farming was the future. It was clean, scalable, and most importantly, profitable. So I took out a loan, built the infrastructure, and planted my first crops. I believe if I could grow faster, if I could prove that I was serious, then I was building something big. And for a while, it looked promising. I gave talks. I encouraged other young people to join me in their journey. I told them agriculture is the best next thing. You should join. You should start farming. I saw headlines in my mind before even they were featured. But then, disease hit. The crops failed. The system collapsed. My break-even point was supposed to be 5 years, and here I had only 2 years. I had scaled a system that wasn't yet stable, had built upward before thinking about the root. To start again, I needed millions. I had debt, and I had doubt. It felt like the end of the venture, of the belief that something valuable to offer. But here is the truth. The failure didn't just humble me, it clarified me. Because sometimes the danger in failing, it is in succeeding at the wrong thing. That collapse forced me to start again, differently. And Akomnara wasn't just a comeback, it was a correction. I built it slower, more deliberately, with a community at the center. And this time, I stopped asking, how fast can we grow? And I started asking, how deep can we serve? You see, we keep telling entrepreneurs to think big, but maybe we've understood what big really is. Big isn't always about scale, sometimes it is about the depth. We've been taught that changing the world means reaching millions, but what if it just means just showing up for just one person? What if a small pond in a forgotten village can be more revolutionary than a SaaS app that you are thinking about? We call a business small, but when it feeds a community and then celebrate billion-dollar apps that feed nothing at all. You see, the billion-dollar business idea isn't the exit, it is the entrance. The entrance to complexity, to pressure, to compromise, to raising more money than trust, to scaling faster than your heart can take it. We praise disruption, but what happens when we disrupt the very community that we're supposed to be serving? We chase growth, but sometimes growth means forgetting. Forgetting your why, forgetting the faces, and forgetting people like Mama Achieng. We've made gods of numbers, but numbers don't hold hands. They don't raise children. They don't remember birthdays. They don't say, you changed my life. People do. You do, right? Mama Achieng remembers me, and I remember her. And if all I ever build is something that changes her story, and the stories of women like her, then I've already built something which is priceless. Even if the press never notices, even if no one writes about it, even if it doesn't scale. So I ask you, what are you building? And who are you building it for? Will you still build it if no one clapped? Will you still build it if it only changed 100 lives, but changed them completely? What if it was that enough for you? What if death, not scale, was the real innovation? $1 billion idea, sure, it might make you rich, it might earn you headlines, it might buy you seats at fancy tables, but the ideas that truly change the world, they rarely come in confetti. They come with calloused hands, with late nights and quiet mornings, with people who whisper, you saw me, you didn't walk away. I have failed publicly, painfully. But failure gave me the clarity that success could not. So no, I'm not here to tell you how to build the next unicorn. I'm here to remind you that startups worth building are the ones that are built on purpose, not pressure. Sometimes the failure is the lesson, and surviving it is the success. That's me, Elizabeth Okulo from Akomunara.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing your wonderful story and reminding us that bigger isn't always better, and that true impact is measured in depth, not just in scale. If you're passionate about sustainable food systems, definitely check out Akomunara and how they're transforming aquaculture across Africa.
And next, we welcome Justine Janica Kabilas, a change maker addressing the global plastic crisis through conscious shift.
With a background in research, data, and behavioral science, she bridges markets and mindset to drive systems change.
Justine dives into behavioral design, why great ideas fail without behavior change. Expect powerful insights into how psychology fuels innovation. Build a behavior, not just the solution. Please welcome Justine Janica Kabilas.
Good afternoon, everyone. Why do even some of the most brilliant ideas, some of the most well-intentioned solutions fail to gain traction or fail to stick with the market? When I was 21, I was a market researcher for one of the largest multinational corporations, not only in the Philippines, but globally. And it was one of those roles that really made you feel so important. You know, you'd ride up the elevator to the top floor of a high-rise building at the heart of Manila, to the floor where all of the corporate decisions were being made. And one day, I remember walking into that same top floor boardroom, really excited to solve yet another problem for the company. And so I was with my team, I sat down, and across from us sat senior executives. That day, the company had just been named the top plastic polluter of the Philippines. And, you know, as a young, wide-eyed researcher, I was so excited to get into conversations about, you know, how can we make their brands more sustainable? But unfortunately, that's not how it went. And I was a little too naive to realize that these companies, they don't really want solutions. They wanted to manage their reputation. They wanted to fix their negative press. And at the end of the day, they just really wanted to bury the headline and not change the story. And so, as I sat in that room, I knew that something in me already had been shifting, and I kept asking myself, is this really the kind of impact that I want to create? And I couldn't stop thinking about the beaches of the Philippines. If you visited, they're some of the most beautiful in the world. And especially that of my coastal hometown, once pristine, and now littered with plastic sachets, with bottles, with packaging, majority of which had that very company's logo printed on them. And for context, the Philippines is the world's largest contributor to ocean plastic pollution. And that company, the company that I was working with, was largely responsible for that. And so I walked out of that boardroom, like really questioning everything. And that day I realized something. I could either use my knowledge and skills to protect the systems that perpetuate the plastic crisis, or I could start building systems that actually protect the people and the planet. And so a month later, I resigned from that role, and you bet that my Asian parents weren't very happy about that. And, you know, but when you're following your heart, you're following your purpose, you get immune to those conversations over family dinner. And so I pursued business education. I started my journey into impact entrepreneurship, frankly, with more questions than I had answers. But that's okay, because those questions really became the seed for what would become my company Conscious Shift, where we really focus on helping people walk more gently on Earth through different circular solutions. And we had one bold goal, and that is to tackle single-use plastic consumption through its drivers of affordability and accessibility. So what we did was we piloted this mobile zero-waste refillery where we actually bring sustainable products right into businesses, right into homes. And with the support of our community, we actually began diverting thousands of plastic sachets from landfills every single month. But one tiny detail that I forgot to mention is that all of this happened during the pandemic. And so people didn't really want to go out their homes. They wanted all of their groceries, their goods delivered right to their doorstep, and that's exactly what we provided. And for a while, this was the perfect storm for our business. It was just the perfect opportunity, you would say. And for context as well, the Philippines also had one of the longest in the world when it comes to COVID lockdowns. So you could just imagine that when those lockdowns were lifted, things started to change, Slowly, people went back to their old ways, back to their convenience, back to their usual grocery stores, and back to plastic sachets. And so, at that time, and since we're all talking about failure here, it really felt like a personal failure, but it wasn't a failure of intention. It wasn't a failure of values, nor was it really a failure of effort. What it was a failure of design, because we built a solution, but we hadn't really fully understood the behavior. After all, failure is feedback. And what I come to learn in this journey of mine is that failure is feedback on human behavior. And you fail when you fail to understand human behavior. And so I mentioned earlier I was in market research and now I'm in behavioral science research. And one of the frameworks that really changed everything for me was the COMBI model for behavior change. And what it says is that in order for any behavior to occur, 3 conditions must be present. So it's called COMBI. So C stands for capability. Do people have the physical or the psychological ability to do the behavior? O stands for opportunity, and it talks about the environment. Do their physical and social environments actually support the behavior? And M stands for motivation. And it asks, do people want to do the behavior? And if they do they want to keep doing it? So I want to try this framework on something a little more universal, something most of us are probably struggling with. With a raise of hands, who among you at the start of the year have committed to get more active, to, exercise more, and probably signed up for gym membership? Yeah? Yeah, it's an active room. Keep your hand up if you can say that you've consistently done that, gotten more active, or maybe went to the gym multiple times this week. Okay, it's an active room. But, I see some of the hands going down, but that's not because people are not capable of working out. For most of us, at least, people are physically capable of working out. We know how to work out. But for some of us, maybe the gym is across town, maybe it's freezing outside, or maybe Netflix just dropped another season of Bridgerton or Black Mirror, depending on your vibe, and your friends are calling you up and saying, we should have a watch party. So your environment is literally conspiring against your abs. And for some of us, the motivation just isn't there. The reward of working out feels too far away, and maybe the habits just haven't formed yet. It all sounds so simple, but when I mapped on my startup onto COMBI, it was like turning on a light. It wasn't an issue of capability. People understood how refilling works. It's not complicated for them. But when we look at opportunity and motivation, that's where the real friction is. There weren't a lot of refilling stations in the Philippines, and in our culture, refilling just isn't mainstream yet. It wasn't a norm. And when it comes to motivation, people are motivated to act. People care about the planet, or at least they would tell us they do. But caring about the planet and changing deeply ingrained habits, they're just two very different things. And when we look at it more deeply, even if we're providing accessibility, even if we're providing affordability, buying plastic sachets was really just a force of habit. It was deeply ingrained in our culture, and in fact, it's an unfortunate symptom of a paycheck-to-paycheck economy. And so when I realized that, I knew that systemic change needs to happen. And that's when I pivoted our business model. Instead of asking people to swim against the current, we started working with businesses to change the current itself. So instead of asking people to refuse plastics, we worked with companies to actually remove single-use plastics from their value chains entirely. And so there is no plastic to consume in the first place. That's the power of behavioral science. You stop blaming the people and really start designing better systems. As impact entrepreneurs, we all want to change the world, but too often we start with a solution. We fall in love with our app, we fall in love with our innovation, our new technology, but we forget to ask the question, what exactly is the behavior that we're trying to change? And what's stopping people from doing just that? Is it a lack of capability? Is it a lack of opportunity? Or a lack of motivation? Or maybe a combination of these three? And until we answer these questions, we're not really designing for change. We're not really designing for impact. Startups don't fail because they lack ideas. You would know that founders have tons of ideas for every single problem in the world. They fail because they misread behavior. But that's the thing about behavior. Behavior is not random. Behavior is understandable. Behavior is changeable. But most importantly, behavior is designable. So whether you're building an app or trying to get people to adopt your new product or new technology, or simply just maybe trying to get them to refill their shampoo bottles, your role as an entrepreneur is not just to build a solution. It's not just to build another startup. Your role is to build the conditions for behavior change. So to design for capability, to create the opportunity, and to ignite the motivation. Because the world doesn't need, yet another startup that only looks good on pitch decks. We need entrepreneurs who actually understand how to design for the messy, the complex, but beautiful reality that is human behavior. Because at the end of the day, impact doesn't happen when we scale ideas. Impact happens when we shift behavior. And so as entrepreneurs, I urge you, if you want a sustainable future for all, build the behavior and not the solution. Thank you.
Justine just gave us the playbook for turning good ideas into lasting change. Behavior matters, because if people don't act, the impact doesn't happen.
And now, to continue our presentations, let's welcome Nardos, who will tell us about her startup, Dipola.
Nardos Berhe is an impact entrepreneur, scholar with 7 years of experience in international development, impact investing, and social innovation. She has led projects across sectors for gender equality, for climate resilience, and deeply committed to advancing inclusive, sustainable development throughout action, research, and advocacy.
She will tell us about the investor side of things and what makes them look into your projects and what makes them turn away. And more importantly, what makes you spot the mistakes that they would spot first. Let's all welcome Nardos Berhe.
Hello, everyone. I want you all to take a moment to think about an investor. Try to picture one. What do they look like? If you have seen enough Shark Tank, then maybe you're thinking about Mr. Wonderful. Or maybe you were just thinking about someone with a very stern figure, someone sophisticated, someone intimidating, perhaps someone who's a know-it-all with a very big ego and perhaps even a gatekeeper. Those were my exact thoughts walking up to my first gig as a translator during live pitches to investors. My expectations, simple. Big ego, brutal questions, and power plays. But what I discovered couldn't be far from these assumptions. 7 years down the line, I've had the opportunity to manage funds and investments across various sectors. My experience has been global, so I've had the opportunity to see the global investor landscape up close. To name a few, I've managed the Australian Government Fund in parts of Africa, I've managed the US Social Venture Fund distributed globally, and currently I'm working with the Dutch Investment Fund that's prioritizing Sub-Saharan Africa. So drawing from these experiences, I want to show you what an investor perspective is like. I want to debunk some of the myths, starting from the anatomy, and then we'll see essentially how you can fail to secure funding. So contrary to the first thought I've shared, investors are listeners. They are strategic thinkers, they are risk takers, they're mentors, futurists, and connectors. And they are painted as this intimidating archetype, but in reality, they are potential partners. The term investor itself encompasses various kinds. We have VCs managing others' money. We have angel investors investing their own money. We have corporate venture arms. We have incubators and accelerators who provide seed funding and other opportunities. We have impact investors who prioritize social and environmental return. And we also have family offices serving ultra-rich families. But for this session, we'll stick to the generic investor type. But before all of this come in, you as the entrepreneur, you are the first investor. You are putting in your time, your effort, and your intellect into your startup. And then the next step is looking for external investment, which we refer to as the real investment. And typically, this comes from the 3 Fs, from your friends, family, and fools, and sometimes a mix of all. And this investment also varies across stage, from conceptual to mature. And as you can see, the checks are small early on, but the risk is the highest for the investors. And you can see there is also a jump from launching a company to being a profitable startup. And in fact, this gap is called the danger zone, often referred to as the valley of death. And this is often where startups stall because they have a product, but they're not profitable yet. Now let's rewind to the idea stage. So as mentioned, this is the riskiest for investors. But this is not far from reality. There are a lot of companies who have raised funding with just an idea. To name a few, you might know Dropbox. They only had a demo when they raised their funding. We had Figma. We have PayPal, which was only a cryptographic idea when they raised their funding. And we also have Twitch, which was acquired by Amazon when they were only an idea. So what did the investors see in these companies to invest in them? 4 things in precise. 1 is a validated problem. 2, they saw a future-oriented solution. 3, they saw a market that's scalable. And then lastly, they saw a very strong team that can execute this vision. And we'll look into each one by one in the coming slides. Starting with the idea. So how do you come up with an idea that can appeal investors? I'll highlight 2 very popular approaches. The first is the lean startup method. I highly recommend the book by Eric Rice, who is a very renowned entrepreneur who designed this principle. And the method itself, it helps you find the right solution through building, testing, and iteration. So you can see at its core, it follows the build, measure, learn loop so that founders can quickly understand what customers want before they spend so much time and money into building their own thing. Second is the design thinking process. This is more of a human-centered approach to help you identify right problems that really speaks to the user. And there's also a book, Change by Design, that if you want to dive deep into these methods. And in both cases, you can see identifying the problem is key. And from my experiences, I've seen that those closest to the problem are well positioned to find a solution. And you've seen many success stories of entrepreneurs who experienced the problem firsthand, and then they come up with a solution to change that narrative. And for that, I highly recommend the book See, Solve, Scale, in the process of spotting a problem and then turning it into a breakthrough. So once you find the problem, now it's on you to come up with a solution. You have to find a way to bridge this gap. Let me take you back to 1903, a time where the most common mode of transportation was limited to horses and carriages. If you walked up to a horse-drawn carriage owner and asked them what they want instead to go to places faster, they would have most likely said a faster horse. It's very unlikely they would have told you a machine with an internal combustion that runs on fossil fuels. That's exactly what Henry Ford said. Instead of asking people what they wanted, he observed the problem, and then he came up with a solution that was beyond their imagination. So this is to say to you that you must be innovative, you must be bold, and you must be willing to take a risk on an idea that can simply be out of the ordinary. So once you believe you've found the solution, the next step is to validate it. And at this stage, you might not really be pitching to investors, but you're still seeking feedback. There's a concept called the mom test. So once you have an idea, the worst thing you could probably do is tell your mom about it, because she's going to tell you it's amazing since she loves you. Here's a quick video explaining this
Your
concept.
mum, if your business idea is a good one, she'll just say yes, because she loves you, of course. The mum test is a set of simple rules for crafting good questions that even your mum can't lie to you about. Let's have 2 conversations and see what we can learn. Mum, your mum, if your business idea is... I've got a business idea. Can I tell you about it? Of course, dear. You like your iPad, right? Do you use it a lot? Yes. OK. So would you ever buy an app which was like a cookbook for your iPad? And it only cost £20. That's cheaper than your hardbacks on the shelf. Well, and you can share recipes with your friends. And there's an iPhone app which is your shopping list. And videos of that celebrity chef you love. Yes, dear. That sounds amazing. £20 is fine. Will it have pictures of the recipes? Yes, definitely. Thanks, Mum. I'm going to quit my job and put all my savings into my new startup. Won't you have some lasagna? That conversation led us down the garden path. The mum test is about talking to your customers about their life, not your idea. It's about discussing specifics in the past instead of generics or opinions about the future. It's about talking less and listening more. Let's do it again right this time. Hey, Mum, how's the new iPad? Oh, I love it. I use it every day. What do you usually do on it? Oh, you know, read the news, play Sudoku, catch up with my friends. I saw a couple of new cookbooks on the shelf. Where did those come from? Oh, they're one of those things you just end up getting at Christmas. I think Doreen gave me that one. Haven't even opened it. As if I need another lasagna recipe at my age. Time to refine my idea. We discovered many insights in that conversation to help us adjust our idea. It just goes to show, if you can get useful business information from Mum, you can get it from anyone.
So, as the so-called Angel Investor of the Year said, you need to ask the right questions in order to validate your idea. And if you want to deep dive into this concept, you can read the book. So, once you have a validated idea, now you have to build a team, if you don't have one already. A team that investors can count on to execute the vision. Ideas shift, solutions might change, but team can make or break an idea. Data shows that startups with a team are 2.6 times more likely to get an investment than solo founders. And if your team is diverse, chances are even higher. But before you can build a team, you have to know your entrepreneurial DNA. You have to know your strength in order to know who can complement you. And for that, we have the Bosai Quadrant Matrix. There's a book called Entrepreneurial DNA, which dives deep into each. So you can know if you're a builder, if you're a specialist, an opportunist, or an innovator. And there are also various surveys online to help you know based on your strength. So once you know, an ideal team member would have a team square of a hustler, one that can sell, a hipster with a network, a hacker who will build and develop the platform, and then the heckler who will design and brand the startup. Last but not least, you have the idea, the solution, the team. Now it's all about scalability. Investors really want to know, would this idea scale? Would it adapt in the long run? Can it really persist through shocking change? A quick example here. I hope you all recognize this item. So in 1997, there was a company that delivers DVDs by mail to your home. Do you recognize this company? Yeah, that's now Netflix. But when they started, they were only a company that delivered DVDs to your home, so you don't have to go to Blockbusters, where the video stores. However, as digitalization grew, their business model was on decline. And video stores started to shut down, but they also pivoted quickly. They were able to end the rental service, and they introduced streaming service in 2007. And then in 2011, they made that a standalone business, which grew to be the biggest streaming service that it is today, and they even produced their own movies on their own. Another example, in 2008, 3 guys in San Francisco used to rent out an air mattress in the middle of their living room to strangers who want to travel cheap, and then they would offer them breakfast. Does it ring a bell? Yeah. So it was initially called Airbed and Breakfasts, and then it turned to Airbnb. So you see where I'm going with this. In 1994, Jeff used to sell books from his garage with no profit, and then turned it to the e-commerce giant that it is today, Amazon. A digital board that once used to help you collect tattoos and wedding cakes online has now become Pinterest, which is the biggest scrapbook of the internet. So this is all to say that a lack of adaptation and scalability, it comes with a very hefty cost that investors can simply not afford. They want to know if you can truly scale and persist through unimaginable changes. But that's not to say that investors always get it right. They don't always find the startups that are going to scale. Who remembers this cell phone? Okay, majority, nice. Okay, so this is the BlackBerry Key 2 LE, which was the brand I personally owned. And BlackBerry once dominated the smartphone industry. In the early 2000s, they had 40% of the US market and even more globally. But despite evolving consumer needs, they cling to the physical keyboard. So you can imagine when Apple announced their first generation iPhone with a touchscreen in 2007, BlackBerry faced a rapid decline, and its market plummeted to virtually 0%. And you can imagine how investors were shocked to see all their investments in BlackBerry evaporate overnight. If you want to learn more about this story, there is a very interesting documentary about their whole process from the rise to the fall of BlackBerry, which is really interesting. Another example is Kodak, a company that invented photographic camera in 1888. Maybe some of you also owned this back in the day, but they thought film camera would be dominant forever. So they ignored when the digital photography scheme was starting to rise. At that time, at their peak, they had 80% of the market, and they assumed they would be dominant forever. But because of this ignorance, they lost all market share and they had to file bankruptcy in 2012. Similarly, Yahoo was once the dominant internet portal, was overtaken by Google. In fact, after they famously declined to be bought for $1 million, and then MySpace was swept in by Facebook overnight thanks to their superior user experience. So these stories are to show you that investors don't just bet on what your company is today. They bet on what's going to become tomorrow. They want scalability. They want adaptability. They want founders who are not just building products, but they are building with the future in mind. And even now, at this moment, we are witnessing a huge shift towards AI. Almost all companies you may know of, they are trying to acquire other AI companies, or they're introducing new AI features. And just this year alone, there were 70,000 AI startups registered globally. So unless you are future-oriented, unless you're scalable, and unless you're adaptable, you can most certainly consider investors out. So knowing these realities, investors are trained to spot red flags that signal a potential disaster. During my Startup Madness Week at Venture University, we had 50 startups pitching every week. And VCs would decide in the first few minutes if they're going to proceed with the opportunity or not. And these were some of the red flags that stood out. One is saying we have a first mover advantage. Investors prefer backing the team that's right, not the team that's first. Sure, BlackBerry was first, but iPhone took over. Second, claiming that your startup is worth 3 million without demonstrating it is not convincing. You have to know your valuation early on using a proven valuation method. Third, not conceptualizing your idea shows that you haven't taken a risk and you're asking the investors to take a risk that you are not ready to do so. And then lastly, saying that you just want 1% of $1 billion market, it might seem logical, but it's a very lazy market sizing approach. You have to know your total addressable market and then your serviceable, obtainable market and show how you're going to capture it. So some of these are misunderstandings. They thought the startups, they thought the investors wanted to hear these things. And there's a lot of misconceptions by founders about what investors want to hear. And we'll debunk some of them now. First is that there's a myth that investors are perfect. They're not. Sometimes they miss out on great opportunities, and sometimes they fall for the wrong ones. You might remember Elizabeth Holmes, who was named the next Steve Jobs. She's the founder of Theranos, a company that was said to revolutionize healthcare with a single drop of blood. She was backed by over 700 million from high-profile investors, some of whom were the former US secretary. And they thought they were going to miss out on the next big thing if they didn't invest. But what they bought into was not tech. It was a complete fraud. It was a scam masked as innovation. And in 2022, Holmes was convicted of fraud and she was sentenced to 11 years in prison. Second myth is that due diligence is one-sided. It's not. It's a two-way street. And you should assess also investors' credibility. You have to look into their thesis. You have to look into their vision, their team, their portfolio, because not all investors are well-intentioned. And unfortunately, there's a rise of scams. Third is a myth that you need a strong network to raise money, but that's not true. Connections help, but cold outreach, storytelling, public launches, they do open a lot of doors, and that's how many companies raise funding. And finally, one of the most common myths is that if an investor rejects my idea, it must be bad. Rejection stings, but it's only a redirection. It only reflects what the investor was looking for. It doesn't reflect your worth. And most billion-dollar startups were rejected in their early days. To name a few, Airbnb was rejected over 20 times, DoorDash around 70 times, and Canva, my personal favorite, because I also did this presentation on there, they were rejected 100 times, but now they're valued at nearly 50 billion. So use rejection as feedback. Try to refine your idea, refine your pitch, and come back stronger. Now you might be asking yourself, how do I fail? Wasn't that the whole theme of the session, how to fail to secure funding? Well, my answer to that is, as long as you're trying, you're showing up, you're learning from feedback, you're facing rejection, and you keep shooting your shot even though you're not hitting your target, you are only getting closer. So this is not what failure looks like. This is what failure looks like. Not taking any action, giving up on your ideas, making excuses, and quitting before you even start. So as long as you are the first investor, you're taking action, you're already ahead of the game. I myself can proudly say that I am trying. I'm currently working on my own startup named Dipola. So Dipola is a platform that collects and demystifies geospatial data from satellites to build a climate-resilient future. And I am building a platform that puts data at the center of sustainability, and we use this data across various sectors. You are more than welcome to learn more at dipola.io. And since we can cover everything in this session, I've compiled all the books that have helped me in this journey into a folder that you can access here as a handout material. And then I'll also be happy to connect with you all on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
That was real, raw, and relatable. Thank you, Nardos, for the mystifying fundraising game. And for everyone who's interested in navigating through fundraising in frontier markets, don't miss out what Dipola is building to support purpose-led ventures.
And now with that, our first part of pitches is over. Let's have a 15-minute break before we come back for startups that are a little bit further along. And please use this break to grab a beverage or connect with each other, connect with someone new, and let's come back in 15 minutes. Thank you. Sidney gerai atrodo. Sidney. Atsiprašau, nieko negaliu girti išskyrus tave. Welcome back. Now we entered the growing pains stage of a startup. And this stage is about evolution. What happens when your mission gets lost in the momentum?
First talk in this developing stage is from Ivy Bina, who will remind us that proving doesn't mean giving up. Her talk is Masterclass in Resilience.
Ivy is a Kenyan entrepreneur and the founder of Tinka Global, a company connecting African ventures with global investors to drive inclusive growth. A recognized tech leader and advocate for the UN Sustainable Development Goals, she champions youth, sustainability, and community-driven innovation.
Ivy brings bold innovation vision to the stage, one where local solutions unlock global opportunity. Through her real stories and setbacks and adaptation, Ivy shows how to stay true to your purpose even when the path changes. So please welcome Ivy Bina.
Yay! Okay, hi everyone. So I want to introduce you to this concept, or actually just remind you, how many of you know something called Alcoholics Anonymous? I think you've heard it, you've seen it, you've seen it in TV or somewhere, right? So in Alcoholics Anonymous, somebody always stands up and says, hi, my name is John, and this and this and this, and I'm an alcoholic, and you say, hi, John, right? So here right now, we are in the Failing Startups Club. So I'm going to introduce myself, and after that, I would like you please to say hi to me, okay? So hello, everybody. My name is Ivy Binam, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a founder, and trust you me, starting a company was no easy. I'm not drowning in any success, and I have a failing startup. Thank you very much. So I will now go on to share. So I'm going to talk to you about building past failure, how my dream is still living on, how it's thriving and trying to fight on, and I will give you the Tinka experience. So I was there, just a young girl. I thought of building something big, something visionary, something revolutionary. I wanted to be the next Steve Jobs. I wanted to build that Microsoft. I wanted to build that unicorn. And so I said, you know what? Why not? I'm going to do it. So I locked myself in a room somewhere. And I came up with this idea. I brought my couple of friends together. And then we came up with a business. And then, our business crumbled even before we started. No one even bit, so we all dispersed. That was my first failure. But because of that, this really allowed me to get to talk to other entrepreneurs, get to interact with so many founders, and get to see what is really affecting my continent, what is affecting Africa as a whole. And it inspired us to try to build for Africa itself. And so, we started asking, what do people see when they talk about Africa? I think I will ask you this. How many of you have seen that video of a child in Africa with a fly? The fly just flying next to the eye. That's the portrayal that you always see about Africa, right? You see that, you see people living in shanty buildings, you see lack of innovation, you see poor infrastructure, and of course you see wildlife. I want to go on a safari in Africa. Please, please come. It's really amazing. But that's the story that you see. That's the story we tell. And the crazy thing is, all civilizations actually had a bleak beginning. They started from somewhere. One day you didn't have roads, one day you didn't have cars, you didn't have transportation. And they built that world that you're currently living in right now, the Europe that you call now. And Africa is innovative and Africa is thriving. And we want to build Africa for the next 300 years, for the next 500 years, for the next 1,000 years, when no one is going to remember you. And that is the tech utopia we want to build for Africa. That's the vision we have for Africa. And not just me, trust me. We want to build the next teleportation device. So I always thought I'll do that when I was probably, I don't know, I thought probably I'll get into one of these crazy schools and get to build a teleportation device, but my life turned out differently. But I can help that, right? We want to build the next teleportation devices. We want to build transportation that will connect North Africa to South Africa, East Africa to West Africa. We want to build innovation, to have the next tech hubs, to have the next healthcare centers. And that is a dream that is there. It's rooted in so many people out there in Africa and across the world. So then how can we do that? That dream was so big. That dream is bigger than me. I myself cannot do that alone. So what did I decide? Oh, as a young entrepreneur, obsessed with passion, obsessed with vigor, with some tech skills. What did I do? I went back. I said, oh, let me just code a few words, a few lines. Let me try to build an application. Let me build a platform. People love platforms. Platforms and apps were actually the in thing back then. So we built Tinker Global. And the story behind Tinker is really profound. So if you know me, you know I love movies, I love TV shows, I love animations, and one of my favorite animations is called Tinker and the Other Fairies. So they are different kinds of fairies. We have 5 different kinds of fairies. We have the winter fairies, the spring fairies, the summer fairies, and the autumn fairies. Then we have the Tinkers. So all these 4 different fairies, they go out there to the world. Oh, they bring spring. Spring is here, right? They bring winter, they bring summer, they bring fall and all that. But then the Tinkers never come to the real world. The Tinkers, they stay in the fairy world. And in the fairy world, they are the ones who are doing all the hard work. They are making the instruments. They are making all the technical items that they will give to these other fairies to bring the dreams to the world. So us as Tinker Global, we wanted to be the ones to work behind the scenes. We wanted to do all the dirty works, help you find the linkages, help you find the partnerships, help you find the funding that your businesses actually need to bring your dreams to the world. So we were so armed, so motivated, so happy. Oh my goodness. You could imagine how my team was so happy when we brought this forward. But then you guess what? Silence. Utter silence. We told our friends, definitely our family, friends, and fools. We shouted it, we broadcasted it, we told everybody. Definitely we got a few applauses, definitely we got amazing job that you're doing. But the reality was, it was utter silence. What were we told? Africa is not ready for this. And the crazy part is, we had imbued all the technological features that sound attractive to anybody. We had put AI, machine learning, whereby we'll match an investor with a user or with a business very fast. And then we had also incorporated blockchain technology, whereby if you have shares, we created a stock market and called it a block market. So that if you have shares, you can be able to trace the transfer of that share from one person to another. And what did businesses tell us? What did people tell us? We want money, we don't need technology. And what did the investors tell us? We don't see the potential just yet. We don't see the potential for Africa just yet. This is not now. Why are you building this? So we had to go back and re-examine our why. We had to go back and re-examine our how. And honestly, I just want you to realize how sad that was when you are so brave, when you put yourself out there. And the world just doesn't, it's not that it's rejecting you, it's actually just refusing to acknowledge you. It doesn't accept what you are trying to portray out there. So we had to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? And we saw that Africa itself is great. The opportunities are great. And if the world is not ready, it is up to us to actually make it ready. Because innovation itself does not wait for you to get ready. You just get ready. You just step on it and it becomes ready. And that is our job. And now it is my pitch to sell to you why Africa is an amazing continent for you to look at, for you to consider investing in and supporting our businesses and ideas. So first of all, Africa actually holds the three main important things for development. What are those? We have food, labor, and energy. Can you imagine Africa holds 60% of uncultivated arable land? That means in the next few years when we have 10 billion people in the world, when we have 20 billion people in the world, where are we going to be getting our food from? Africa. We have not even cultivated it yet. 60% of the entire world, that's more than the entire world. We have high labor, you have a ready workforce, and right now when we're trying to transition into green technology, Africa has 19% of the world's materials and minerals that are required for that green transition. So the why is still there. It's so hard, but it's still there. And this is why this dream is so unshakable. Because in the next few years, if we are trying to build a world not just for the next 5 years, for the next political season, if you're trying to build a world for the next 100 years, next 500 years, there is so much massive opportunity in Africa for everyone. And so it made us really realize, like, why did we actually fail? Why? It's because we wanted to be that unicorn, I wouldn't lie. We wanted to be that one big company that stood the test of time. We wanted to have our pictures up there in Forbes top 30, under 30. But our vision was bigger than that. Our vision is bigger than just one company. Because we are trying to build for the people. We are trying to build a people and a future. And no company owns one future. No company owns the future. None. And so we are still trying to match the opportunities that are there for investors, for different stakeholders, for institutions, and we want to collaborate with all these parties, not just as one company, but as a collaborative effort. And so the funny thing is, the other day I was actually in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, so we had different governments just come forward, different organizations come forward, and majority of them, like we had the organization from Singapore, even from Botswana, even Switzerland itself, and they said that, oh, we need money, we need investments. We have brilliant people, we have innovation, we have technology. Everybody needs money. And the thing is, even however powerful the economy is, however great America is, they all need money for investments. Even right now in Europe, people are looking for money for development. And so why should the story be different for Africa? We ourselves need to develop our continent from within and also from abroad. And so we need funding, we need resources, we need capabilities, because if you are investing in Africa, you are investing in the world. And so I would like to ask you, would you like to build this future with us? So finally, as I have finished making my case for Africa, because I did realize if it comes to building a vision, if it comes to building a dream, it's no longer just telling about my company's story. It's about telling Africa's story. And we won't be remembered in 100 years. We won't be remembered in 500 years. Are you really comfortable in building a dream where the dreamer is not remembered. Are you comfortable in doing that? And so I would like to invite you to join Tinker Global as we are building dreams together, because the dreams that never die never truly fail. Thank you very much. Okay.
Sticking to your dream is noble, but Ivy showed us being too rigid can take you off course. Reinvention isn't failure, it's strategy. And if you're interested in working with African startups, explore Tinka Global. You can find the barcode here and connect them to world-class investment opportunities.
And now let's welcome Diego from Abunda. He stumbled into blockchain probably for the Lambo, but then stuck around for the impact that it can provide.
Diego Monterosa is a social innovation entrepreneur and investor, passionate about connecting unexpected ideas to create real-world impact. With a background in research, policy, and economic development, he also served as a chief staff at the Wise Ministry Investment, where he led development of Guatemala's innovation and technology policy.
Today, he's the co-founder of Abunda, a venture using blockchain technology to reduce the cost of remittances and expand access to financial services. And for him, innovation is not just about inventing, it's about implementing solutions that can improve the lives of thousands, perhaps even millions.
Diego breaks down complex syntax, simple terms, and warms us about the hype. A talk anyone curious about using tech for goods, not for gimmicks. Please welcome Diego Monterosa.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. La Vadiena. Buenas tardes, buenas noches. Bonsoir. Buonasera. I'm really happy to be here. Can I hear you? How are you? No, I'm not convinced that you're good. Could you say it louder? How are you? Good. Yes, thank you. Now I feel the presence and now I feel energized with your energy and also with that beautiful sun that is making our afternoon very beautiful. Thank you for this space. And in the following minutes, I'm going to tell you a story. For that, let's get back to mid of 2022. When I just got scammed. Yeah. I'm going to tell you the story. One day, my brother-in-law came to me. He told me, look, this is a really good investment opportunity. I'm going to spoil you. I'm going to give you a spoiler. He was not the one scamming me. He's still being my brother-in-law. Everything is good at home. Everything is good. But we decided to give it a try. So the investment was consistent of making a deposit of money into crypto, into a crypto wallet for a company. Okay, and they were offering us a 20% revenue after a month. So we said, yeah, let's do it. First month, we did it, and we were able to withdraw our earnings at the end of the month. So we decided to invest more. Yeah, we are always looking on ways to generate more money. So we invested and everything went perfect. We were able to withdraw as well our money, only the gains, not the investment. The second month, but the very third month, when we were trying to withdraw our money, guess what? We couldn't. When we tried to withdraw our investment, guess what? We couldn't. And we lost all the communication channels that we had with the people that was managing the company. Yeah, we were just being scammed. We knew at that moment about crypto what we also knew about Ponzi schemes. And we were involved in both of them without realizing it. Yeah, I'm going to tell you the good news. The good news, well, that's what I want to believe, is that our money paid other people involved in the Ponzi scheme before. Yeah, that's what I want to believe. The bad news is that the money of the people that were integrated into this Ponzi scheme didn't pay us off. Perhaps it paid the wildlife or the Lambo of these scammers. So, well, I prefer to believe that this was the best thing that could have happened to me because it was the gateway or my gateway to get into the crypto world. And in my professional life, it represented a drastic change on what I was doing. Well, with my co-founder, my brother-in-law, we started exploring the process of on-ramp and off-ramp of fiat currencies into crypto, and we built a company working as a provider of liquidity into the crypto market of our country. Well, that journey later brought us to believe, what if we apply this mechanism to cross-border payments to make them more efficient, cheaper, but still reliable? So, inspired by the thousands of people who live in the United States, who work as migrants tirelessly, we built Abunda, a cross-border platform that processes payments leveraging on blockchain technology. Well, we transform a traditional profit system where there are many intermediaries in between and who charge on average 6.5 of the amount of the money that people sends back home into an easy mechanism, tech-driven and generator of development by reducing the costs, increasing the value, the real value of the people who are working in the United States and who wants to send the money back home. We were able to reduce the rate on more than half to 3%, and during our first iteration, our first MVP, we processed around $200,000. We built a strong community of people, more than 50 clients, more than 470 transactions with a zero failure rate, and the most important thing, we were able to increase the value of people in contrast with a traditional remittance service provider. That's why I believe that that scam thing was the best thing that could have happened to me. But let's be honest, what's crypto reputation? Not the best. Since the moment that you started speaking about crypto, it sounds kind of scammy, no? Lots of scams, lots of frauds, just as the one that I mentioned before. Well, also crime, illicit activities, because sending money and moving money from different nations is really easy, really fast, but also traceable if you have the ability to trace transactions. Security risk, hacking. Just a few months ago occurred the biggest hack of history of crypto. $1.5 billion stolen from one exchange called Bybit. It was not because of the technology. It was a social hack. Despite they stole that huge amount of money, well, it is believed that it was the North Korean hackers group called Lazarus, and they used this money to finance all those threats to the whole humanity, and also lack of regulation and oversight. Well, Europe has an advanced path on this because you have the MiCA regulation that helps a lot. Also, for example, Hong Kong last week passed a stable coins bill that helps to regulate this market, but the United States, for example, still working on it. We still not have in regulation nor in the United States nor in most of the countries of Latin America, including my country, Guatemala. Well, extreme volatility, speculation. For example, there is the case of one meme coin where the president of Argentina was involved. Libra coin President Milei involved into a pump and dump mechanism. Also, the amount of energy consumed by certain mechanisms, certain protocols, specifically Bitcoin, whose consumption of energy is higher even than countries, for example, Norway. And the lack of safety. There is this case of an American tourist who went to party to the UK, and he was drugged, he was forced to open his wallets, and he was stolen $135,000. I cannot imagine how that hangover looked like. But I'm going to tell you something. These negative perceptions are significant barriers for the mainstream adoption of this technology and its potential. And failure would be to ignore its potential by simply letting ourselves guide by what is known of this technology. What if my co-founder and I would have stepped back after being scammed? Right now, we wouldn't be able to think on revolutionizing the way that remittances are processed in Latin America. So, over the next few minutes, I'm going to explain you very basically on a really easy way with a lot of examples, and I promise you, not technical jargon, how does the blockchain technology works, what problem it solves, and I want you, please, I want you to keep this information, this very basic information on your subconscious mind. Because here we are change makers, and we are making changes, we're working on problems and solutions, and someday you will find, here is where I can implement blockchain technology to enhance the problem that I am solving. So, I'm going to start with a story from my country, 2023, general democratic elections. Authorities made a really good decision to back the results of the elections with blockchain into specifically one protocol that works under Bitcoin. And it was the best that they could have done because the results were unexpected. One party that was not the favorite ended up winning the elections, and a lot of people were challenging the results. The opposition was challenging the results. And guess what? There was the blockchain. There was the information. And the best thing is that this information was immutable. No one, nor the president, nor the president of the United States could modify it because it was already recorded. That moment was a win for the democracy of my country, but also was a win for the trust that we have on our systems, such as the electoral system in my country. And that brings me to the reason why blockchain exists, which can be reduced to a single word. Which is the word? Trust. Please keep it in mind. Trust. Because blockchain didn't emerge from technology, from the techies specifically. It emerged from the lack of trust. It emerged specifically when the trust on the financial system was lost in 2008. That was the year when one person or one group of people under the pseudonymous of Satoshi Nakamoto published the white paper of Bitcoin, the first real application of blockchain into the financial system. And also, I want to tell you a fun fact. Just a few days ago, we celebrated the 15th anniversary of the first transaction where Bitcoin was used. It was the purchase of 2 pizzas. Yes, 2 pizzas in Florida that were bought for 10,000 Bitcoin. Who can tell me how much does 10,000 Bitcoin worth today? Make a guess. How much? Million, $1.1 billion. Yes, imagine that, just imagine that. How far we have come with this world of crypto. And we are just starting. This is just the beginning. Well, but how does blockchain solve the problem of trust? Well, to that we have to explore these 4 elements. First, using a decentralized network of computers called nodes. This decentralized network of computers records information. That information that is recorded is immutable, cannot be modified. No one can modify it because of that, because it's a decentralized network. There's no centralization on the recording of the information. Third, by a consensus mechanism. Everything that gets recorded into this network is agreed by all the participants, all the nodes, as real or as fake, depending on the source of the information. And finally, by the application of smart contracts, which basically work with this logic. If X condition happens, then Y condition must happen. And the very best thing is that it doesn't require the participation of a third party, an intermediary, involved to certify or verify that the condition has been accomplished. Okay, let's see these 4 cases with an example. And we will talk about the protocol of IBM Food Trust that is enhancing the reliability of the food supply chain in the world. How does it work? Okay. During the supply chain of, for example, one produce such as sweet potato, there are a lot of information, sets of information that can be recorded, coming from the quality of the soil, coming from the quality of the seed, coming from the temperature of the transportation, coming from the amount of wholesalers involved, etc. All this information is recorded into this distributed ledger. The information is immutable, and someone that is coming to the supermarket, let's say Remy, can simply scan with a QR code the product, the sweet potato, and get access to all the information about its traceability. That is how blockchain can be applied to a food system, for example. Okay, now I have the confidence to show you the very real definition about what is blockchain. A distributed ledger technology that records data securely, transparently, and immutably across a decentralized network. Did you get lost with this definition now? You get it better? Thank you, thank you. And each of these blocks of information have a timestamp, have a hash of the previous block of the chain, have a set of transactions, and some other technicalities, but we will keep it simple just by giving this example. Imagine a notebook where information is recorded, everyone can read, no one can erase, and everybody believes on what the information that is being recorded. That is the blockchain. So, now that we have explored the essence of blockchain, I'm going to give you also the very specific examples of the information that was recorded in the examples that I mentioned. For example, in Guatemalan elections, what was recorded were the tallies of results of each of the districts of voting. In the food trust system, all the information coming off the quality of the specific product. And in the case of my company, well, the information that is recorded is the ownership of the tokens of the people who is sending their money abroad or from one country to another. Well, technology by itself won't change the world. We will do it. With every single idea that we have in this space, you're working in something. And please, I want you to ask yourself this specific question. What area, what part of my business relies on trust? And where does trust matters the most? Perhaps it's a certificate, perhaps is a certain set of data. Well, I'm going to give you some examples from other colleagues of my program, the EMMIE program. For example, Daniela, who is not here, she's in Barcelona. Hi, Daniela. And she's working with a language edtech company. And she, for example, could back on blockchain the certificates that her students get in order to make them not falsifiable. Gabriel, who is in France, I know you're in France, Gabriel, he is building vertical gardens in Paraguay, and he could back all the traceability of the products that he's using on his vertical gardens to add it as a value added. Also, Ivy already told us about her venture. She could create, and also she also explored it, some smart contract-backed mechanism to provide funding to small, medium companies, for example. And finally, Isabel, who is around there, she could cut unnecessary middlemen when exporting her jewelry, her sustainable jewelry. I'm sure that here we have valuable ideas, and I encourage you to keep going on your ideas, because with passion and consistency, we will change the world. Please, let's keep the conversation, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Diego. And I think in the current landscape of trust issues and deepfakes and all of the information in the world that can be created, trust is a thing that matters most. And if you want to check out Diego, he's a big proponent on blockchain. He shares his vision about blockchain. And if you want to explore his own solution to having better and digitalized financial services, please scan the QR code. And thank you once again for sharing your thoughts on crypto.
I failed at relevance, and that's when I started to matter. And that's how we welcome Effie Fiona Mbuvi, who shares the raw journey behind Kuanasi, a social enterprise committed to financially empower marginalized women artisans and driving meaningful change in their communities.
Effie, who I don't know if many of you know, but came here just for this presentation. And she is a seasoned Kenyan social entrepreneur and a recent graduate of the EMMIE program. And she connects Kenyan artisans with sustainably, and just, as you can see, she even wears her own creations and the creations created by her artisans, and she shares them with the world. With Kuanasi, she serves as a bridge between the skilled artisans in Kenya and conscious buyers around the world, designing the world not just for fashion, but for real impact.
Her talk today explores how losing sight of your mission can sneak up on you, and how rediscovering it can bring deeper meaning and authenticity. So please welcome Effie Fiona Mbuvi.
Hello. I'm going to take you on a journey. And it's not a journey that's fun to talk about. And as many of you might think, it's not going to be as humorous as some of the talks that we've had here today. But I invite you to go on this journey with me. Before we get into the journey, I want to take you back to December of 2024. I was a stressed out EMMIE student who was working on her master thesis, but I was excited about a project that I was building. And I called some of the women artisans that I work with to reflect on 2024, and to prospect on what 2025 is going to be. And I asked these women a question that I had asked them the moment we started working together. What is empowerment, and what does it look like specifically for you? And as we had the conversations, very sobering, something began to dawn on me. Because the more I asked the women on what empowerment looked like, the more I realized that it was so different from what I anticipated. Remember, I was an EMMIE student. I had done over 100 pitches. I knew everything should be about strategies, should be about e-commerce. We should be thinking scaling. But then, it was Paulina's turn to explain what empowerment would look like for her, and not in the context of forever, just in 2025. And she paused. And not the kind of pause that comes from somebody who did not understand the question, or somebody who needed to think so deep, but the kind of pause that comes from someone who wants to weigh their words and wants to pick them so intentionally so that I could really understand. And after what seemed like a very long pause, she asked me, could we have some soap? And I was very confused, because what does that have to do with empowerment? And not to be insensitive, I was afraid to ask, how does that relate to empowerment? Because in all sincerity, I was not sure if I was prepared for what she would say. But still, I probed. And I asked, why soap? And as a mother, and as a woman, she was again very careful with how she would deliver her answer. I could feel the heaviness. I could feel the tension. I got uncomfortable. It wasn't my story that was being told, but I got uncomfortable. Even before she gave me the answer, I could feel shame creeping up in me, on me. And she said in a very simple way, you know, when it's that time of the month, some of our girls, she didn't want to mention who, but she said some of our girls, they don't get out. And they hide and they stay inside. And I would just like for them to be themselves fully. And that's the moment I realized that I had failed. That was the moment that I realized that kuwa nasi had to mean more. But let me take you back. So I want to tell you about how it all started and how we got here. So in 2023, I was a very ambitious young girl. I was so excited to work in women empowerment. And not because it's very fancy or anything, but because I was fully aware of the challenges that women from especially the rural parts of Kenya were facing. But the more I went into these communities and the more I interacted with women, the more I was amazed. I met women that were not lazy or were sitting around waiting for charity or aid. I met women who were in craft, women who are artisans. And I looked at some of the things that they created, and I thought, wow, this needs to be seen beyond their villages. This needs to be seen beyond the capital city of Kenya, which is Nairobi. And so I thought to myself, as many of the other entrepreneurs who stood here before me said, I'm going to build something. It's going to be special. It's going to be better. My mission was very simple. I want to connect these women to a fair-paying market. That was it. I want their luxurious creations to just be seen and be celebrated and be appreciated. In my eyes, it was luxury. So I set up a mission. One, I'm going to pay them fairly. I'm going to set up a system. We're going to sell them to a fair paying market, and I'm going to pay these women fairly. But beyond paying them fairly, I want to reinvest in their communities. I want to help them develop their communities. Because I care for the environment genuinely, and ISM is a very huge part of that. I think I fell in love with sustainability attending ISM. I was like, yes, we're going to use eco-friendly materials. I think I had it all cracked. I was ready for this. But as I started building, the market, which has a voice, I hope you know the market has a voice, it started whispering. And it started whispering things that you anticipate, things that, you know, as an entrepreneur studying at ISM, you've probably heard. I heard things like, refine your brand. You know, I was told, we want you to look like something that would be put in Paris, on a shelf in Paris. Don't speak so much about poverty. You know, we don't want to attract pity by. Speak about sustainability. Don't speak so much about women empowerment and forget the market. Focus on the market. Focus on the numbers. Focus on the scale. Refine your pitch. And all these things are very important. They really are. And so I did. And I worked with my friends. This is one of my models. Her name is Mihaela. She's an EMMIE student from the previous cohort, and we attended ISM together. And this is inside one of our rooms, but you guys are the only ones that know this. This is inside a secret right now. And I wanted to show people. And the market said, make smaller jewelry, make less colorful stuff. Don't make bags that are so colorful. Africans, you really love color. Make something that's less colorful, you know? And when you go before investors, don't focus so much on impact. Find a way to tell them about the return on investment. You know? This is how you scale, this is how you grow, this is how you become relevant. This is how you're seen. This is how you reach the right customer. This is how you empower the women. The end justifies the means. And I was willing to do everything it took. I listened, and I listened, and I refined, and I polished. And my pitch would change over and over and over and over and over again. And the voices of the women that made me start to do what I really loved to do was silence. And it's not because they stopped talking, it's because the market was speaking in a way that was so loud, I didn't know who to listen to. My voice was silent. But I had a brand. And this is real time, guys. This is truly our tagline. We're Kuanasi, luxury with purpose. But at the time, I didn't even know what luxury is. Was it the price point? Was it selling jewelry at 300 euros? I don't know why. Was it saying that I'm only gonna sell to this demographic? You see, luxury had evolved. And it was no longer the women defining it. It was no longer I defining it. But we had evolved. And we had evolved to what I think might be irrelevance. Because the voice that really mattered had stopped to be heard. And we go back to where I started from. This is Paulina. These are her kids. This is their home. And I don't show you this to sell a very misconstrued image of Africa and share, oh, everyone is living in horrible state. I share this because this is my rebellion. This is my way of saying I am no longer sanitizing the truth for the comfort of others. But anyway, we go back to December of 2024, and Paulina asks for soup. She didn't say, oh, we want the latest e-commerce platform that's easy to use. Oh, we need you to help us come up with a pitch that's going to land us the top investors in Kenya. Oh, wait, I know. We want to be recognized as the best community of artisans in the world. No, she asked me for soup. This is 10 months after we started market testing with them. I'd worked with Igridas, he'd given me very good advice. Sincerely, that's not sarcastic. He'd really given me very good advice. And we'd done several market tests. And we'd paid the women in the 2 market tests specifically, sometimes up to 2 or 3 times, and for some products even up to 5 times what the broker or the middleman was paying them at the village place. For me, that was a good thing, you know? But I realized that in 10 months, everything else had changed but her status. My pitch had changed. My drive had changed. My motives had changed. My means had changed. My logo had changed. Almost everything had changed. But nothing had really changed for her. She was still earning under 2 euros a day, working sometimes up to 12 hours a day. And so, yes, this is a story about failure. And it's not the kind of failure that we are very comfortable in or with. It's the kind of failure that makes you question, why did I get into this? Why can't I just be like any other ordinary human who just finishes their degree and gets a job, for crying out loud? You know, just... But despite it all, I think I had failed because I had gone away from the women. I had gone away from the women that told me, this is our problem. This is what we need. This is how we define empowerment. We're not looking to be the best brand. We're not looking to be the most famous. And so, with that crushing realization, I decided, this is now March 2025, after my graduation, and I'm a free bird. I decided I will eat the humble pie. I will go back to the women. And this time not to tell them, and not to teach them, and not to share my insight from 3 European universities, but it is to listen. It is to ask, not with the intention to inform, but to ask with the intention to understand. It is to ask from a place of empathy, not from a place of buffed up knowledge. And as they talked and as they shared, I decided I will listen. In the past, as I already told you, I would send them designs and I would be like, it has to be like this. This is what the European market wants. But now I started to ask them, what puts your soul on fire? And they tell me, we love color, we love patterns. And so instead of just designing for them, I decided, how about we start designing for them? And as you can see, together with the help of a lot of people, we started listening. And we started designing, not specifically with the market informing our mission, but with our mission informing who our market is going to be. Because that's crucial. And that's something that we forget. We are so desperate to make that sale that I will allow the market to tell me what my mission is. But this time, as I said, my rebellion was, let my mission inform my market. You see, it's easy to be caught off guard by failure when you forget the voice of the person who told you, this matters. In the first place, this matters. This is what matters to me. When I sat with those women, when I listened to them, none of them, not a single one of them, brought up the idea of any of the business content that we learn here. It was very basic. It was too basic for me, to be honest. But this is what matters. So why can't I do business in a way that matters? You see, I thought relevance meant doing it the way the world says we should do it. And I have no problem with that. But if you're in impact, it has to be different. You have to listen to the voice that says, this matters. This is why we have to do this. And so, despite my failure, thankfully, I have found my way. I have found my way back to the women. I have found my way back to their voices and their insight. And the most amazing thing happened. You know that voice of mine that I had suffocated, I had sanitized, I had wiped off? I started to hear her again. And it turns out, she's really brilliant. And she really does have some good ideas on how to work with women and how to make a lasting impact. And I know that just by the fact that you're seated here, you do want to have impact in one way or another. Because why live life with no impact at all? And I'm going to tell you the truth. The way to have impact is to go back to the people that got you on that journey. Every time you make a decision, ask yourself, did I hear their voice today? Are their priorities at the top of my list? Is their voice represented? It's good to listen to your coaches and mentors and investors. And customers. I emphasize, guys, customers. Cash is king. Without it, there's no business. But at the end of the day, it all means nothing if you do not come back home to them. Thank you very much. Let's connect.
Thank you very much, Effie, and I think from all of us, that was beautiful. And to make a real impact, to come back to your roots, to come back to what you're really passionate about, I think any business would be happy if they had a mission like hers. And once again, thank you for sharing it with us.
And now it's time for another short break. So connect, snack, reflect. And the best part of Starter Journey isn't always on the slides. It's in the stories shared between the sessions. So we'll be back soon for the final stage. And those who are online, stay tuned.
batch of presentations, and up first is Sydney Badiola and her platform Metamorphosis for high achievers.
Sydney Badiola is a startup coach where she supports founders in building bold ventures without burning out. With a background in leadership development and mental wellness, she helps high-achieving entrepreneurs recognize the hidden costs of hustle culture. Sydney brings a ground, human-centered approach to growth and a powerful reminder that success should never come at expense of yourself.
Are you a part of hustle culture? Do you feel burnt out? Do you need lessons on how to keep your achievements high, but your mental state flowing and calm and collected? For this, please welcome Sydney Badiola.
Right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Coach Sydney. I'm the COO and co-founder of Metamorphosis Group, a holistic career and life coaching company. And for the last 5 years, I have been spending my time at my work in helping others create a life and a career where they can be the highest versions of themselves, which essentially means I have been working closely with professionals from all over the world in different industries and in different stages in their career, from the young upstarts to the inspiring and aspiring entrepreneurs to C-suites and managers, overcome their own barriers, internal and external, to achieve both their professional and their personal goals. And in my work, I talk a lot about leadership, and I talk about career success, having worked with different people dealing with these kinds of problems. But I find it especially fulfilling when I'm working with professionals and working with businesses that are specifically on impact. Because for me, impact-driven work, be it in businesses, in corporate, in NGOs, in startups, is really something that the world needs much, much more of. And having worked with hundreds of clients, I've seen how the challenges of these situations and these missions are a little more complex than the average individual, exactly as Effie mentioned a little while back. Because suddenly, when you're talking about impact, when you're talking about success, when you're talking about impact endeavors, you're not just navigating your own career anymore. You're not just navigating your own success, but suddenly you're responsible for a vision, responsible for a cause. Suddenly your own success means the success of a sustainable development goal, of a community, of a vision that you're trying to achieve. And before I go into the story of how I became this impact entrepreneur and how I became the person that I am today, who is an advocate for impact and someone who aspires to help people also working for impact, I too have been chasing success, traditional success, for most of my life. So you see, I've been there too. I grew up the smart kid. I am the eldest daughter of an Asian household. So I was ambitious and I want all the success. And I still do today. But my priorities changed and I was able to reframe my different kinds of success and was able to navigate that through my years. So I graduated with Latin honors from the top university in the Philippines, carrying accolades and positions from my organizations. I was vice president, I was president, I was all this and that, and I was set to succeed in all the traditional senses of the world. But as I grew up, I grew up learning that traditional success is usually defined by your paycheck. It's defined by promotions, prestigious offers, the titles that you get in the biggest companies in the Philippines and globally. And somehow, when you achieve that, they tell you that's the only time that you'll deserve to be happy, you'll deserve to be successful. Suddenly, that's the only way that you can say that you've finally made it. So that was me circa 2020. I did get all of those things that people said I should get and people expected me to get. So imagine the disconnect that I felt when I still discovered that there was so much still missing from my life. Because on the surface, I was hitting all the marks. I actually was handling the top billing client of my agency, despite being the youngest of the team. Just 4 months into my job, I was already being offered a promotion. I was given the top and the biggest client that everyone else quit because they couldn't handle it. I earned the praise of all my bosses and all my managers. My manager even told me, "You reminded me so much of myself when I was younger." And back then, I held that with so much pride. And I was winning awards and clients for my company, and everyone said, "Wow, you're so amazing." But that was on the surface. What they didn't see that was happening underneath all that success was that fact that I was working at 12 midnight, taking client calls, negotiating costings, negotiating billings, and I was even working at Christmas Eve for a project. What they didn't see was I was diagnosed for the first time with anxiety because I wasn't eating. I was too afraid to eat because I was gonna take calls, and there was still just so much to do. I didn't have time. And honestly, I was also horrible to my family, and I know my mom is watching this, and she would say, "Yeah, she was." And because I was hungry all the time, and I was sleep deprived, and I wasn't the best version of myself. And essentially, I didn't know it, but I had lost all sense of self and all the sense of value in what I was doing. And no matter how much I shared this with my friends and my teammates, they would tell me, "Oh, it's fine. That's just success. It's because you're better, you're stronger than anyone else. That's why you're given this task. And if you keep holding on, you're gonna be promoted. You're gonna get all these things." And that's what my managers and upper level people would always tell me. What happened? And that was my first exposure to what I know now as glorified resilience and burnout culture. Because somehow along the way, being able to push through all these struggles and taking it all was something to be proud of for some reason. And I clung to it because I loved being told that I was strong. I loved knowing that I was better than everyone else. And it took me a while to realize that, I was sacrificing my well-being for the sake of pride. And that was the first realization that made me realize that I was no longer where I wanted to be. And eventually, I came to my senses and I quit my job, and thankfully, that was the best decision that I have ever made. But it took a lot of courage for me to suddenly realize that everything that I was working towards wasn't exactly what I wanted. It's what everyone else told me that I should aspire for. And as fate would have it, my next endeavor would also be my healing journey from that traumatic experience, but would also spark the healing journey of so many others. So, the good thing is that crash forced me to reevaluate everything, especially my own definition of success. And I knew that so many others like me were struggling as well. And this is what led me to creating Metamorphosis Group. Because when I transitioned into coaching and in entrepreneurship, I realized that I had so much more room to grow. And especially when you're working on impact. When you're working on a project, when you're working on a cause, a business, or a company that is aimed to make a difference and to help other people, it's not just about the business anymore. It's not just about your work anymore. And as an entrepreneur, an impact entrepreneur, it's not just about being business savvy. Suddenly, my growth wasn't just personal anymore. My growth was directly tied to the growth of the business and the achievement of all the visions that we wanted to achieve. I quickly realized that the definition of success is completely different if you want to be a leader and if you want to be a change maker. And I think this is why a lot of impact entrepreneurs and a lot of people who are trying to make a difference in this world struggle, because suddenly the terms are different, the playing ground is different, and now the definitions and the goals of success become different. Which leads me to the main thesis statement of this talk, which is, if you want to be building something sustainable, whether it's a career, a mission, a legacy, a team, you must first be sustainable yourself. Because how can you fix problems? How can you fix the problems of the world if you can't even recognize and fix the problems that you have within yourself? How can you promote a new system that is loving, impactful, sustainable, if you can't even afford to give yourself that same grace? Because the big idea is, to be the kind of leader that the world needs, you must first be able to start leading yourself. And that's why the real work of impact really starts within. Starts from within. And it starts with the self-awareness. And in MG, we call it self-mastery. Self-mastery is the ability to understand, Regulate and align your values, your thoughts and emotions to your goals and your values, even in the face of pressure, stress, or external expectations. It's being able to ask, who am I being? Who am I becoming while I am chasing these goals? While I am building this business? Why I am pursuing this endeavor? What is the cost of my current pace? And is it worth everything that I'm giving? And without it, without this self-mastery and without this self-awareness, we tend to fall in the most common pit traps that even the most passionate, well-intentioned, purpose-driven young leaders fall into. And the tricky thing is, they don't usually look like bad habits from the get-go. In fact, they often start from a good place. But when left unchecked, it can push us towards exhaustion, disconnection, and eventually burnout. And these three biggest ones were the things that I had to unlearn myself, and are some of the biggest struggles that my clients and then my teammates also had to go through. It's being able to chase success and big dreams, but forgetting what it's for. It's giving all your energy and time and passion to the work that you're doing, but then leaving nothing for yourself. And lastly, being proud of your success, but letting it define your life and define your worth. And we'll get into them bit by bit. So, chasing success and big dreams. There's nothing wrong with ambition. In fact, I inspire you all, I encourage you all to aspire for big dreams and chase big goals. But the thing is, you must never forget what it's for. We always start off with good intentions and big dreams. But as many know, when reality hits, when the pressure suddenly comes, the decision-makings become a little more difficult. You want to make an impact. Yes, that's very good. But once you start thinking about finances, once you start thinking about politics, once you start thinking of all those different circumstances telling you to take the easy way out, or make the easier choice, or get the most profitable outcome, suddenly those decisions are harder to make, and impact is so much harder to achieve. This is especially difficult for us leaders. We are always put into a position where we are so easily judged, we are easily seen by others. You can hear so many comments of people saying, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, this is what matters to your business, and this is the best route to go forward. It's from different people with different agendas, good and bad. And when that happens, it can be so much difficult to move forward. And we risk losing the vision that was supposed to fuel us in the first place. So what are the things that we can do to counteract this? Well, instead of rushing through everything that you need to do, that you have to do, in order to keep your cause moving, you must always stay connected with your why. We're so concerned with the KPIs and the need to grow and the sales and the salaries that we need to provide for our businesses and our causes. That sometimes we tend to lose sight of why we started in the first place. But we need to remember that as leaders, we have the responsibility to be careful about which choices that we choose to listen to. Be it from the thoughts of others, your inner voices that tell you that you're not good enough or you should do this. You need to discern which are the things that actually are aligned with the things that you want to do and the things that you would like to achieve. Because you need to be brave enough. You need to be uncompromising, and you need to know what are the things that are your non-negotiables in deciding where your business is going and where your vision is going as well. Because at the end of the day, you need to make choices that are authentic to you, your values, and your goals. You need to be able to make decisions not out of fear of losing, not out of pressure from your investors or for your team, but remember to listen to the voice of the business, of the goals, and of yourself who started this initiative in the first place. Now, I will always tell my coachees, especially the entrepreneurs and even the managers, how important it is to always stay in touch with your goals. And having this consistently is one of the biggest game changers that I have seen them. Really help them in making sure that they're always aligned. It really helps to have an accountability buddy, a coach, or even a mentor to help you keep aligned with everything that you're doing. I am someone who, honestly, I don't believe in the new year, new me trend. Because why do you have to wait for a new year to start checking in on where you are right now? You can start today, you can start after this talk, you can start tomorrow, and really take a step out of the life that you're living right now
and see if you're still headed in the direction that you've always wanted to be in. So the biggest lesson, for the first one actually, is for change makers, it is crucial to ground yourself in your why. When you are facing problems, when you're facing difficult decisions, your why will always provide you with the right answer. Even though it doesn't seem like it, even though it's difficult to see, always go back to your why and you will never go wrong. The second biggest challenge that I have seen is giving your all to the work, the vision, and the team. As startup founders, as entrepreneurs, and as leaders, we always hear the term, get the skin in the game, or you have to have skin in the game. And that's all well and good, because we need passionate leaders and you need to be dedicated in order for something to come to fruition. However, with passionate people like that, I've also heard many, many stories on people surviving on coffee, surviving on only 4 hours of sleep, having multiple breakdowns, and then coming back the next day, somehow being a little proud of it, or pretending that it's normal. But the reality is, taking care of yourself shouldn't be mandatory. I love the discussion that goes, or that asks, you say you'll die for your kids, but would you live for them? And twisting that a bit for us entrepreneurs, I want to ask, you say you'll die for your cause and for your vision, but will you live for it? Will you make the difficult decision to take care of yourself, to make sure you get 8 hours of sleep, to bring yourself to the gym even though you don't want to make sure you're eating healthy, to make sure you're showing up the next day at your job bright and happy and still responsible and making the best decisions? Because the reality is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Rest is always productive, and as leaders in our different industries and our different positions, we have the responsibility to be a good example to others. Because how am I supposed to promote, oh yeah, impact entrepreneurship is something that we should do if you see me burning out and unhappy with everything that I'm doing? That doesn't seem very believable. We have to be good examples for ourselves and for the teams that we are leading. If we want to be able to create a good future, we need to be able to be examples of it. We want a world where there's impact and there's balance and there's profitability. Then you have to walk the talk. Yes, there will be times that you kind of have to tough it out, but remember that there are times that you just need to take a break and to slow down. Because how are you going to show up as your best self? You need to be able to think smart. You need to be able to have the brain power and the emotional capacity to make strategic decisions, to make smart decisions, but also still lead with compassion and with love, especially for the teammates that you manage and the people who are relying on you. I have been an athlete for so many years, and I compete in open water swimming, as many of you do know. And one of the biggest things that my takeaway for that is that in a race, it's not always about who finishes first, unless you're competing for a podium, which only a few people really do. But in order to win the race, it's about knowing your pace, knowing when to go fast, but also knowing when to slow down. At the end of the day, it's not about time. It's about being able to get there. And that's how you win the competition. And that's how you win the battle with yourself. One of the biggest things that I would tell my coaching clients, and a coaching tip on being able to manage both your personal time and your professional time, is time blocking, which a lot of my friends here know that I am obsessed with my Google Calendar. But the thing is, when it comes to prioritizing your time, it's not just about the work. It's also about prioritizing and making time for the things that matter for yourself too, and the things that keep you happy and healthy. I always recommend being able to block off the times for your work and for your all the things that you need to do, but also putting the time, blocking out on your Google Calendar and your schedules, the time that you need to recharge, to rest, to be happy, to be able to wake up the next day and still be motivated to fight the good fight. People would know that I also have my swim calendars blocked off in my schedule, and also my Wednesday 8 p.m. gaming nights. Those are the nights that keep me sane and keep me happy to go on the next day. What a lot of people don't know is that for change makers and for leaders, you need to understand that self-care is a public service. I would like to challenge the idea that being a leader is all about sacrifice, it's all about being a martyr, it's all about being noble. And yes, sacrifice, there will be some sacrifices, but at the end of the day, we need you around. We need you healthy. We need you to be the strong foundation of the vision that you're trying to build. You need to be able to show up as your best self, to be able to serve the public and your cause with much efficiency. And the last thing that I have seen is one of the biggest pitfalls is firstly being proud of your success with your work and career, which is in itself, again, really, really good. You should be proud of what you're doing. You should be proud of everything that you are achieving. But at the end of the day, you need to know that your business, your job, your career, your titles is not you. You are so much more than everything that you've achieved and are so much more than the praises that everyone tells you. Because if you take that away, what happens to you? Who are you? Are you still proud of the person that you are? And this is especially true, I've seen, for founders who fall in love so much with their businesses. Of course, there are babies. And of course, we love to see them succeed and we love to see them grow. But this also comes at the risk of attaching our own identities and our own self-worth to the success of the business, as if their success would be the reason for our happiness and our fulfillment. It becomes a risk when we start seeing these wins as an end-all and be-all, and when these thoughts and expectations of fear, when the expectations and fears of failure become our sole motivation to keep on going. We're so proud of our titles and accolades that sometimes we forget that we are more than just that. So, instead of burning out trying to prove your worth and fixating on just this, you need to be able to recognize that even as a leader, even as impressive as you are, and I'm sure a lot of you really, really are, you need to be ambitious, but you also need to be able to live in the now. Remember that your worth is never ever tied to your success. You deserve to be happy now, not just when you've achieved everything, not just when you've hit the X million of valuation, not just when you hit 100 clients or so. Your vision deserves celebration. You deserve celebration. And you need to stop moving the goalpost. It's not when you achieve something, you're gonna keep pushing for the next one, for the next one, for the next one. Slow down. There's always something to celebrate. You need to find the joy and the good in the little things. Because the path to impact and the path to changing the world is a long, long road ahead. And I'm sure we all know that. There's so much work that needs to be done. And if we wait until we've made it, when we've achieved all our KPIs before we let ourselves be happy and feel successful and feel worth it, then you're gonna be looking back and see that so many years have already passed you by before you even let yourself feel valuable. You need to enjoy the journey. You need to enjoy all the failures and all the hurdles and all the things that slowed you down. And this is coming from me, who is one of the most impatient people in the world. So, one of the biggest lessons that I would always say in being able to overcome this, and this is personally one of the things that I struggled with, is really practice gratitude every single day. Note the everyday wins. Be more observant of the things in your everyday life that give you meaning and give you happiness. Share it with your friends. Be proud. Be proud of the little things. I personally have a Telegram chat with all of my best friends, and we'd share the small things. Oh, I'm talking today. I saw a border collie. I was so happy. I was able to submit my project. Those little things that move you forward. Because all those things are progress, and all those things make life worth living. And it keeps you forward, moving forward. Because lastly, for the change makers, you need to remember, and you must never forget, that you are so much more than what you can do. I know a lot of you are very influential, very smart, very, very driven. But even without all that success, you're still very much valuable. And you still have a good heart. And you still have so much to offer to this world. So never forget that, especially when you encounter the setbacks that remove all these fancy, fancy titles. So, in summation, these challenges aren't just problems. They're invitations to grow as conscious and resilient leaders. Instead of chasing dreams dictated to us, choose the ones that are truly worth solving. Choose the ones that matter to you, the business, and the vision that you want to achieve. Second, instead of burning out, practice resilience in a way that is sustainable. Take care of yourself. It's the very first step in taking care of others. And believe me, I've burnt out so many times before I realized how true this is. So do not copy me and put yourself first. And lastly, instead of tying your worth to everything that you can achieve, Dream boldly. But don't forget to live in the present as well, and to live fully as well. And enjoy the journey as we try to fight the good fight. In MG, I've seen lives changed and impact scaled when people are able to realize their highest expression. When people unlock the best versions of themselves, they're able to create beautiful things for themselves, and especially for others. This is the kind of leadership and society that we hope to create. And these are the kinds of conversations that I have seen and I encourage, especially in impact spaces. I'm lucky to be friends with so many clients and impact entrepreneurs who are so passionate and are fighting a good fight. And I truly hope that they are able to achieve all of their big dreams and they're able to take care of themselves too. Because we need more people like them. Because the stakes are much, much higher for keeping leaders like you inspired, motivated, and driven. Because just imagine if we lose any single one of you, or you get demotivated, or you decide that it's just not worth it anymore. Think of all the businesses that would never be launched, the lives never changed, and the solutions never executed, all because you got tired, because you think you weren't good enough, or because you think it just wasn't possible. And wouldn't that be a waste to the vision that we're trying to create? And this is why I really advocate that why self-care and putting yourself first is so, so, so important. And it's the very first step in making an actual change in this world. Because personally, if I let my life be dictated by the external expectations and the external fears and internal fears that I created for myself because of those expectations, then I wouldn't be the same COO, coach, and person that I am today, giving this talk right in front of you. MG probably wouldn't have existed. I wouldn't have been able to change hundreds and thousands of lives, telling my story, helping them create stories for themselves. I would probably still be the same girl, going with what others expected of me, instead of creating my own path for the things that matter to me, both professionally, personally, and personally. Because if I clung to the version of myself that everyone else thought I should be, then I wouldn't have made space for the person that I was always meant to be. So, the journey is not the easiest. The work in itself is difficult. The professional work is difficult, and the inner work that it takes to succeed, it's much, much, much harder. It's hard to face your traumas. It's hard to face your fears. It's hard to challenge everything that you've believed growing up. But, remembering your why, it's always worth it. You're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it to make the world a better place. Because tying it all back to the theme, the biggest path to failure is wanting to change the world without willing to change without yourself being willing to change yourself first. So to wrap this all up, I want to leave you guys with 3 major thoughts. Is that number 1, to change the world, you need to know how to change yourself. And I can't tell you how happy and fulfilling it is to feel aligned to your work and to yourself, and to see clients and to see the people who rely on you achieve that too. In this journey of growth and introspection, you're going to be able to see that you deserve to have a life and a career that makes you genuinely happy. You just need to work for it, and you just need to really work hard to know yourself better and master yourself to do that better. And you'll also be able, as leaders, to help others live that way too. Because the truth is, the world needs more leaders like you. There's not enough of us fighting the good fight. So you need to make sure you keep going and you keep inspired and you're still happy to be doing what you're doing. All of this for the sake of the world that we are trying to make together. But most importantly, for the better you that you're aspiring to be. And if you need a little push and you need a little help getting there, then we're here to help you get that start. So thank you very much, and I wish you all a very holistic and successful life and career. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sydney, for sharing your personal journey. And I guess do and don't do as Sydney does. But follow what she's sharing with you. Don't get burned out. And if you need help, just like she said, scan the QR codes, and she'll be more than happy to keep you going.
And now, the ultimate awaited one, our keynote guest, investor, advisor, and founder of NGL, Justinas Pasys.
With over 5 years of experience, a personal portfolio of 20 and more startups, supporting 50 startups in fundraising, he brings real insight into what makes or breaks a venture.
His career spans tech giants like Uber, Agile, as well as experience in investment, banking, and insurance across Denmark, Lithuania, and the US. Please welcome to the stage, Justinas Pasys.
Nice. I promised to keep it light and fun, but in a way that you would still learn something, okay? So I will try to do that. Cool, let's go to my presentation. This is going to be a step-by-step blueprint how to fail a startup, okay? Because that's the theme of this gathering, as I understand. Let's go. So my name is Justinas Pasys. I'm the founder of NGL Ventures, investment banking, big startups, smaller startups, founded startups myself. It's too small. I failed it, so I can talk about it. I wouldn't even put a logo here on the screen. Then I've went into startup investing, mentoring, and created NGL Ventures. And in the past 18 months, since we launched, we have closed 23 startup investments, which is a lot. You can clap, it's okay. Yeah, and we closed 12 in the past year. This is PitchBook putting us in the top 10 most active investors in the Central Eastern Europe. They count only 7 investments because 5 were private. So if you count all 12, we're in the top 3. That's why I can talk about startup investing and failing startups. How do we compare to the tech, to the giants, to the big VC funds like Sequoia Capital? They did 103 investments in the last year, so we're like 9 times lacking behind, but it's still kind of okay since it's our, not even our 2 years of operation. So I can talk only about so much, about what I know, about what I've learned, what I've seen. So I can talk about, I will share some theory, mainly our learnings from the Baltics, about early stage startup fails for beginner founders. How many of you have ever founded a startup? Show of hands. Okay, so most of you. It's like the other ones should feel pressure. Yeah. So a step-by-step guide to guarantee failure. I've seen over 5,000 startups over the past 5 years while I've been in the startup investment ecosystem. A bit over 1,000 startups per year I get to see. I talk with most of them. A lot of them have already failed. So I know some of the reasons why. So that's what I'm here to do, to share the learnings. It's going to be 20 steps. I see some of your faces since it's already quite late. We will go really fast through them, okay? Boom, step 1. Select a market you have no experience in. No experience in. You just walked home from your work and you thought of an idea and you decided to run with it and build it for the next 10 years. This is how to make sure you're like really fail your startup. You just pick a hot niche. You don't understand it. You just read about it somewhere. You have no network, no insight, no credibility. You don't even get one single client meeting. This is like super special way to start off. So this is step number 1. Step number 2, you do everything alone. Everything alone. You don't need co-founders. You read that ChatGPT is very good as a co-founder, and it's your CTO, CEO, COO, CBDO. So you decide to go do it alone because you don't need the co-founders. You don't need investors. You don't need accountability, advisors, advisory boards, startup boards. You don't need that. No outside brain power. You just do everything yourself. Okay? Everything that's in your mind, it's how you should proceed further. You just keep repeating to yourself that Zuckerberg built Facebook alone. Although this is not true, but you just repeat it to yourself and you keep yourself motivated to build the thing that you're building. Step number 3, you chase a sexy idea, not a painful problem. Okay? It has to be hot, it has to be trending. You fall in love with your idea and hope the market does too. You don't validate it, you just start building right away. You don't build a painkiller, you're building a vitamin. People don't really need it, it's kind of okay, but we're not willing to pay for it, so you build that. You solve a passion problems, passion of yours, not the markets. Okay, this is step number 3, very important. Step number 4, you postpone launching MVP until it's perfect. You have to feel really, really ready, really, really good about it. It's warm, fuzzy, you know, now I can launch it and put it online, and it's going to be very, very high on product hunt. So that's what you do. You don't launch fast. You try to perfect it. You prioritize fantasy over feedback. You don't talk with anybody, as mentioned before, and you just launch it when you feel good about it. Step number 5, you ignore your customers. At all stages. Before building the MVP, iterating, you don't talk with your customers, even once. You don't need the customers. You decide what customers want for them because you know better. You don't talk to your customers ever, and Steve Jobs didn't ask because you saw it in the movie, so why should you? Yeah, it's just, it's bulletproof. You overbuild, right? You just crank out as many features as you can. You don't start with one and launch it. No, you try to build like 20 features before you're ready to launch because you think it's going to provide the most value to your customer. A lot of poorly written features. Then you customize everything for your clients at some point. That's also a way to fail, and the more buttons, the better. When you open, you know, the UX, you have to get lost a little bit. That's how you actually fail. You focus on branding. It's very important to build that logo. It has to be memorable. You prioritize the brand book over revenue because, you know, it has to look very slick and sexy. And you always obsess about this idea. Can people tell our name when seeing our logo? This is what keeps you up at night. Yeah. Step number 8, you wait for funding instead of building. You don't put a single cent into the company of your own money. You cannot. You just wait. You go to investor meetings, you pitch them for funding, and you don't build, you fundraise to build an MVP, you don't build it yourself. You put zero money, you put zero effort into it, you just keep your full-time job, refuse to quit, you just very, very into this saving money, especially your own, and asking for the investor to fund the whole thing. You also wait for funding instead of selling. Well, don't sell before fundraising and before building MVP. So you go out, you ask investors for money, then I'm gonna build the MVP, and then I'm gonna be selling. You hope that after fundraising, customers will swarm you because there's gonna be this huge PR announcement of how you raised funding, and then it's no way back, you know. It's just huge lines, waiting lines of 2-3 months. You cannot fulfill even all of the orders that are being coming in. So yeah, you perfect your deck and investor pitch in the meantime. You don't focus on the sales script. You don't focus on the value that your product is going to bring. You just focus on the investor pitch. Okay, that has to be like nailed down. Yeah, and afterwards you just say, I'm just not a sales guy. You know, I'm a founder, I'm a tech person, I'm a visionary. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not going to be selling before or after. I'm just going to hire someone to sell it for me. Okay, that's very, very important. Step number 10. Ignore marketing. You just ignore it completely. If no one knows you exist, you're all good. People are just going to come somehow and find you, and then they're going to buy and give you the money, and everything is going to be okay. You don't have, when someone tells you, okay, you don't have the budget for marketing, but can you go like on social media, post some organic stuff, get some traction, you know, it's free. No, you cannot do that because it's beneath you. It's for, you know, for influencers do it, some gurus. I'm not going to be doing this. And if you're forced to do it, you're just going to go to ChatGPT, you're going to generate all these basic posts, and you're just going to drop them in you know, whatever, in LinkedIn. So we're at half. We're at half. If you do these 10 things, you're pretty solid, but you're missing another 10 if you want to be like bulletproof. Step number 11, you price it low because you're scared. You're scared that they're not going to buy, it's going to be overpriced, it's going to be difficult to sell. So you price it low. Yeah, you're very afraid people won't buy. You compete on price. You look at the field, what is everyone charging, and then you undercut them by 10%. And yeah, you're going to be cheaper than all of your competitors, and then you're going to succeed because that's the way to go, and that's the way to build a solid business. Step number 12, you try to serve everyone, as wide of a market as possible. You don't look for like specific niches. No, you go out and we're going to be a CRM for everyone. For everyone. Everyone can use this. We're like Excel. You make your offer compelling to everyone, make your target as broad as you can, and be vague and mysterious, because that's how you build your credibility. Step number 13, you compare yourself to big companies. Like start right from the start. You launch and then aim to just be a little bit better than Microsoft or a little bit better than the Google's product, and then you're good. You're going to be corporate right from the start. There's going to be very specializations, and people are going to be focused, your employees, and doing just one thing, and they're not going to be outside of their job descriptions. And then you're going to compare yourself daily with those successful companies. It's very great for motivation. You track your progress, which is basically standing in line, but you just keep comparing yourself, beating yourself down again, day and by day, because there's not enough progress, but that's a really good way to fail. Step number 14, you build the tech first and business second. So you basically build the platform, whatever you're building, and then you're looking for a solution. It's the perfect way, because tech is so easily changeable and it costs nothing. You build the app, then you look for a solution, start with automation, then figure out the offer, and by no means you do anything manually because it's not scalable. Yeah, even at the start, like everything has to be automated, work perfectly. Nothing you do with your hands. You don't go and do it yourself as a CEO. Someone else has to do it. So it's very important to remember this one. Step number 15, you get burned out and just stay burnt out, because this is what you read, you saw on TikTok or Instagram. Guru talked about founder mode, and you just get burned out as fast as you can. You just worked for like 24 hours straight. And then you just maintain this miserable existence, and then you just spread it in your team and to your potential clients and everyone, and then it really works out, this failing. Of course, you never focus, always jump back and forth, keeping busy. It's very important to just maintain this facade that you're very busy, although basically productivity is at zero, but it's still, you're busy. Step 16 is pivot constantly. Every time you get a new idea, you just pivot. You don't talk with your team, you don't think about it, you don't discuss, you just straight ahead. You just pivot the business because this is going to be better, and you just completely reset the momentum to zero and slowly build back up. Okay, this is very important. Do it as often as you can. Never stay the course long enough to get the signal to build the value. You just pivot as fast as it gets difficult. Step number 17, you ignore completely unit economics, because Uber did it, so why can't I? We're losing money now, but we're gonna grow, and then we're gonna improve the unit economics when we get to unicorn status. You don't have a clue about your metrics, CAC, LTV, churn, because that's also not that important, and you vibe through the financials and budget. You kind of feel it out once in a while, and you never think about your cash flow. It's really not that important. Okay, so that's what you have to make sure you do if you want to really fail a startup, especially this one. Never think about your cash flow until it's like minus. Step 18, build in secret. You build in stealth mode. You don't tell anyone what you do. When you try to hire employees, you're like hushing them, like very silently. You're building very important things here. Don't speak too loudly. When you pitch investors yourself, you ask them to sign NDAs, because it's also very groundbreaking technology. People are going to steal your trade secrets and everything, so they have to sign NDAs, and you have to enforce them as well. So you have to be the world's best kept secret for a long time, for a year, for 2 years, maybe 3 years. So that's also key. And step 19, you reinvent the wheel. You don't do anything as usual. You think that problem solving, think that the problem you're solving is new. It never existed before. No one has ever tried to solve it. You don't contact the people who tried to solve it and how they tried to do it and why they failed. You don't even Google it. Or if you Google it, you just don't go to page number 2 or 3 or 4, because it's it's too much. You innovate as much as you can all over the place, across all of the functions. You innovate. You don't innovate like for 5%. You innovate the whole thing, 100%. We're just going to build something that has not ever existed. And you don't use proven frameworks. You don't copy what works. You feel very, very special while doing it. It's very important. Okay, we're at our last step. Okay, step number 20 is You quit as soon as it gets hard, okay? It's very important as well. You expect, very important, it has to be underlined, you expect that it's going to be easy and it's going to be fast and quick. You don't have planning and discipline, also important, and you quit too early, okay? It's very important. So we got these 20 steps that you should take, and we can see some statistics why startups actually fail, even from bigger data sets. So if you just combine the no market need, run out of cash, not the right team, this is the bulk of the reasons why most of the startups fail. And if you do the 20 steps, you will make sure to match all of these 3, and you're good to go, okay? So if you want to succeed instead, it's very easy. You just reverse everything that I just said, all of the 20 steps, and you do the opposite of what I said, okay? If I would have just put you this list, you would be like, I don't know. But when I did the opposite thing, you kind of understand maybe a little bit better why you should do it this way. So number 1, you select a market you have experience in, preferably at least 5 years. Even more, 10 years. When we invest, we look for 15 years of experience within a certain niche. So you do that, you build with others, with co-founders. You don't do it alone because it's going to be very, very difficult at some point and pretty fast. A lot of the time, it's not even about the tech, with all these AI tools popping up, enabling solo founders. It's more about this, it becomes very difficult. And you need mental support, psychological support because you're grinding and it doesn't work out and then you're crying at some point every day. So you need that. Solve a painful problem, not a sexy idea. Something that people are willing to pay for. You launch your MVP as fast as you can launch it and get feedback. You talk to your customers, you get feedback. When you have already launched, you should talk with your customers at least once per week. Build only what's necessary, as minimum feature set as possible, and world-class if possible, okay? Focus on solving problems before branding, okay? Logo is not that important. I have changed NGL logo 2 times already in the 1.5 years. We just, the name and the logo was I thought of it in a day. Start building before seeking funding. You put some money in and you start building the MVP, okay? Then you go to investors. You start selling before seeking funding, even better if you have some traction. I've known plenty of startups who were selling before having MVP, okay? They go to customers, they sell the thing, sign the contract, people are willing to pay up front. If it's software, it can be done, then you build. Invest in marketing early, doesn't have to be big budgets. Price based on value, not fear, as mentioned before. Cheap price usually doesn't pay off, contrary to most what people think. Serve a specific niche, as narrow as possible, especially at the start. Model small, scrappy players, not giants. You don't compare yourself to Microsoft and Google because they're 30, 40, whatever years old and have thousands or tens of thousands of people. Build the business first, tech second. You don't think about it that I'm going to launch this platform and it's going to generate the business. You think about the business that is going to be generated by this platform or another tool. Avoid burnout, prioritize sustainability. I mean, there's going to be a lot of work and there's going to be, might be some burnout, but you still have to go on vacation. You have to have at least one weekend day. At least one habit, as in the previous keynote, it actually helps you build better things and be more productive. Stick with one direction long enough to win. This is one of the most important lessons. Most people fail just because they quit too early. Know your unit economics. We look at it right from the start. It's important for us that you're not going to minus, even from the start, and customers are willing to pay, and pay good margins. Rule of thumb is an 80% gross profit margin for most startups that we invest in. Build in public. Doesn't mean you have to stream yourself on YouTube how you're working every day, okay? But post about it, talk about it, get feedback, and so on. You'll get more customers and investors this way, and more publicity, and so on and so on. Better employees. Use proven frameworks. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. most of the times, the successful startups, they're reinventing maybe 5%. And you push through when it gets hard. Yeah, it's going to get, you just have to expect that it's going to get hard many times, all the time, and you just push through it if you want to build a startup. If you don't want that, you do something else. That is it. Thank you.
Justinas, thank you very much. If I could ask you to stay for just a tiny moment.
And we'd like to introduce our ISM Vice Director for Studies, Professor Dr. Vilte Auruškevičienė.
Thank you very much for
great program.
This talk. We really appreciate your time, your perspective, and lessons which you give us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Actually.
I think it was also a great introduction on how to actually do a pitch. And yes. The organizing committee, please come up here.
Everybody who talked today, yes.
No, tai kaip kitaip.
Čia jūs svarbiausia.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful talks. Thank you for the experience that you shared. Thank you for the failures. And thank you for your honesty and your heart.
Yes, thank you all. And let's hear the closing remark from the guy who made all of this event possible. Though his idea and teamwork will sit here today, please welcome the organizing event, Java Mahboubi.
Well, my name is Java Hirul Mahboubi, but yeah, you can call me Java. So, well, what makes a startup fail for me is not be able to spot an opportunity. For me, when I build my startup, I try to understand what are my capability, what I'm good at, what are my resources around me, what are my connection, what are my network, and that's how I build my startup. The same thing with this impact talk. I actually understand myself, oh, I can organize this event. And I look around me, I have so many friends who willing to talk to the impact talk. And then I have a wonderful faculty who will support me with a budget for this event to be happens. So that's how you spot opportunity and impact talk happen. And at this time, let me say my thank you to all the organizing committee. We have me here, we have Afifa, we have Queen, we also have speakers who are also organizing committee, we have Sydney and we have Ivy. I want to thank you all the speakers as well who inspire us today with their talks and their inspirations and their experience. I want to thank also the faculty. I want to thank Egiras, Vilte, Bernard for all the support so far. And most importantly, I'd like to thank all the audience who have been here listening to us and make this reality. And then again, for us, what I really believe in as impact entrepreneur, we just not have an inspiring talk, but we actually have impactful work. So hopefully we can see you next year in the next impact talk. Thank you very much.
I was Pius.
Emilia, and keep failing forward and build boldly. See you next year.
See you next year.